In the prosperous town of Umuofia, known for its sprawling farmlands and the grand compounds of its wealthy residents, there lived a woman named Nneka. She was the wife of Chief Obinna, a man of considerable wealth and influence. But before we continue the story, please subscribe to my channel. Like, comment and share. His riches came from his extensive trade in palm oil, yams, and livestock, and his status as one of the most powerful men in the region brought with it respect and fear. Nneka was a striking woman, her beauty admired by all who saw her. She was always adorned in the finest fabrics, with jewelry that sparkled in the sun, and her presence commanded attention wherever she went. To the outside world, Nneka's life seemed perfect. She lived in a grand compound, had servants at her beck and call, and was married to a man who could provide her with anything she desired. But despite her privileged life, Nneka was deeply unhappy. Her marriage to Chief Obinna was one of convenience, arranged by their families to consolidate wealth and power. Obinna was a man who valued his status above all else. He was kind to Nneka, but their relationship was devoid of warmth and affection. He was often away on business, leaving Nneka alone in their large, empty home. It was during one of these long absences that Nneka's life took a turn she had never anticipated. She found herself drawn to Ada, a woman from the neighboring village. Ada was different from the other women Nneka knew. She was bold, independent, and unafraid to speak her mind. The two women quickly became close friends, spending more and more time together. But what began as friendship soon grew into something much deeper. Nneka had never felt such passion, such connection, with anyone before. She and Ada shared moments of tenderness and intimacy that filled the void in Nneka's heart. It was a love that was pure and real, but also forbidden. In their society, relationships between women were not just frowned upon, they were considered a grave sin. Despite the danger, Nneka and Ada could not resist their feelings for each other. They met in secret, in hidden corners of the village and in the dense forest where no one would find them. For a while, their affair remained undiscovered, but in a small town like Umuofia, secrets have a way of coming to light. One evening, as Nneka returned home from a clandestine meeting with Ada, she was greeted by a sight that made her blood run cold. Chief Obinna stood in the courtyard, his face twisted in anger, his fist clenched at his sides. He had heard the rumors, the whispers of his wife's strange absences, the unusual closeness between her and Ada. That evening, he had followed her, and what he saw confirmed his worst suspicions. Nneka, he bellowed, his voice echoing off the walls of the compound. How dare you disgrace me like this? How dare you betray me, your husband, with another woman? Nneka's heart pounded in her chest as she stood before him, guilt and fear washing over her. She had always known this moment might come, but now that it was here, she was paralyzed with terror. Obinna, she began, but he cut her off with a furious wave of his hand. Silence, he roared. You have brought shame upon my house, upon my name. You are no longer welcome here. I will not have a wife who dishonors me with such filthy behavior. In his rage, Obinna ordered his servants to pack Nneka's belongings. He banished her from the compound, declaring that she would never return, and that she was no longer his wife. He made it clear that anyone who showed her kindness would face his wrath. Nneka, once the pride of Umuofia, now found herself alone, abandoned, and disgraced. With nowhere else to go, she sought refuge with Ada. But the scandal had spread quickly through the town, and Ada's family, fearing the repercussions from Chief Obinna, refused to allow Nneka into their home. Desperate and destitute, Nneka wandered from village to village, begging for food and shelter. But the story of her disgrace had traveled far, and doors were shut in her face wherever she went. People who had once admired her now turned away in disgust, unwilling to associate with a woman who had so thoroughly defied the norms of their society. The days turned into weeks, and Nneka's situation grew more dire. She was forced to sleep in the open, with nothing but the clothes on her back to protect her from the elements. Hunger gnawed at her, and she grew weak from lack of food and rest. The once beautiful, proud woman was now a shadow of her former self, broken by the weight of her choices. As Nneka suffered, Obinna's anger did not subside. He went to great lengths to ensure that no one would help her, spreading his influence far and wide to make her exile absolute. In his eyes, she had committed the ultimate betrayal, and she deserved every bit of the punishment she received. In time, even Ada, who had once been the source of Nneka's joy, distanced herself out of fear. The love they had shared, so strong and passionate, was now tainted by the harsh reality of their situation. Ada, too, had to face the consequences of their affair. Ostracized by her community, she could do nothing to help the woman she had loved. As the seasons changed, Nneka grew weaker. She no longer cared about the world that had rejected her, the husband who had cast her aside, or the love that had led to her downfall. She lived in a haze of regret and despair, her once bright spirit crushed under the weight of her suffering. One day, as the sun set over the hills of Umuofia, Nneka lay beneath a baobab tree, her body frail and her breath shallow. She knew her time was near, and as she closed her eyes, she thought of the life she had once had, of the choices she had made, and of the love that had cost her everything. In her final moments, Nneka found a small measure of peace. She had loved fiercely, even if that love had led to her ruin. As the darkness claimed her, she whispered a prayer, asking the gods for forgiveness, and hoping that in the next life, she might find a place where love was not bound by the chains of tradition and expectation. And so, Nneka's story came to an end, a cautionary tale that would be told in Umuofia for generations to come, a reminder of the choices we make, that every choice we make in this life has its own consequences, it may be good or bad. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.